It's time for the Granted in Style radio program with your host, the one and only Dr. Marsha Koger. Good afternoon, Doctor. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon, Tony. Good afternoon, Baltimore. This is Dr. Marsha Koger, the host of the Granted in Style radio show. How's everybody doing? Hope you had a great week. I had a great week, busy as always. Basically, the Granted in Style radio show, this is a show to provide you information and resources to help you grow as a business, to help you grow as a nonprofit, to help you grow as well as an individual. So today, I want to hear from you all. I want you to call in, ask me anything related to business, nonprofits, or if you want to talk about how you're doing during this pandemic. I want to talk to you today. So call in. Feel free to call in at 443-380-2803, 443-380-2803. I want to hear from you today. So first, to start off with, I want to say that this show is sponsored by Be Cardless. Be Cardless is a new business card app that was released and unveiled on yesterday. Make sure you check it out. It's going to revolutionize the business card industry. You can get it on iTunes as well as available through Android. It was developed by Nicholas Koger. So Be Cardless. It's B, capital B, small e, capital CARDLESS. It's free. So if you need to have your business card updated, if you need to have several business cards like I do, it's the perfect app for you. So Be Cardless. So thanks, Be Cardless, for your sponsorship today. So today, again, I want you to call in to talk about anything that's related to business. Call in at 443-380-2803, 443-380-2803. So while I'm waiting for people to call in, I was doing a recap. Usually this time of the year, this is near the end of the year. We have about 2 weeks left before the year's over. So for me, this is a good time. I usually reflect, and it's about 19 days left between now and the end of 2020, y'all. We made it through 2020. So I usually, at this time of the year, I like to look back and reflect and think about just all the things that I did, accomplishments, what things were good, which things weren't bad. So I started to look back at all the radio shows. I started this radio show in February of this year. So I just want to do, just a recap of some of the shows that I did. I started the show off with talking about Granted in Style and where it came from and why I wanted to come on and do this radio show. Then my next show, I did a whole show on coronavirus. When coronavirus first started, we had Dr. Shell on and Robin Shell, who's a lawyer, and they really talked about when coronavirus first started. We didn't know what it was. There was all kinds of information going out about it. So I wanted to make sure we had good and accurate information. Then from there, I had a show with Lawrence Koger, my oldest son. We talked about writing. He has written several books, an e-book, as well as a book of poetry. So that was a show that we had. I also had on Dr. Adrian Wright, who talked about being prepared for a pandemic. And he talked about just how we need to be prepared during times like this and how we needed to have extra water. And, of course, everyone bought toilet paper. Also, I had a show on special education and how we need to advocate for our special education needs of our children. I had on, for that show, it was Dr. Patrice Watson. Then from there, I talked with Lawrence again because during this time, Lawrence started a nonprofit. It's called Help the Trenches. And I just went into that whole nonprofit process of what you have to do, the three main things. You have to apply with your state government, then you get the EIN number, and then you apply with federal government. So I did a whole show on nonprofits and starting a nonprofit. That's my area of expertise. I also had a show on with Dr. William Hobbs, who talked about being healthy during this time and how we need to exercise. And this is a good time that we can talk about nutrition. I also had Nicholas Koger on, who's a web guru who has a business, grindsites.com, and he talked about creating captivating websites. I also had on, I did a whole show on getting funding, just I listed all the funding that's available during this time, funding that's available to nonprofit organizations as well as for-profit organizations. I did a whole show on elections and election ballot. That's another area of my expertise, but this was a year we had to vote. So I went into just the different levels of government, the difference between federal government, state government, and local government, and just what our elections meant and how it was important for us to vote. So again, during this show, I'm just going to do a recap, but I want people to call in. Again, call in to 443-380-2803. Hopefully I have a couple of people calling in.
Dr. Dr. Koger, I do have a caller for you. His name is Nelson, and he is on. Good afternoon, Nelson.
Okay. Great.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, Nelson. Thanks. Who is this?
This is Nelson. Peace and blessings, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good. Thanks for calling, Nelson. I know, too, Nelson is from Delaware. He's calling all the way from Delaware. So, Nelson, what questions did you have, or what were your thoughts? What were you thinking about?
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I am an entrepreneur, and I started my own show. So I have a question about public relations and marketing, and also a second question as well. But my question is, how can you help me with my marketing, my public relations, with my business?
Okay, great. Just quickly, what's your podcast?
It's called Sober.
Okay. What's the?
Yeah, so Sober is basically a spiritual observation everyone can respond to. So I have a show. I talk about 3 stories: the good and bad spirit, and how you can react to it with a sober mind.
Okay, good. So if people are interested in listening, how can they listen to your podcast?
They can follow me at Nell2524, and also it will come out, the first episode, on Facebook on January 5th.
Okay, great. So you're going to launch it in the new year. So thanks for calling now, and I'll be listening, and I'm going to answer your question. There are a lot of things that you can do to market your podcast. One is you need to have a strong social media presence. As I know you do, everyone should have an account and a media presence, a social media presence on Instagram, as well as Facebook, as well as Twitter. So I know with me, also, too, when you're developing whatever, if it's your podcast, you're developing a brand. So I think it's important, too, that whatever you do, everything is coordinated. My brand is Granted in Style. So everything that I do has a coordinated handle. Everything needs to be succinct and needs to be cohesive. So I think that's important, too, even before you start marketing, that you're going to have the same look, the same message, same tagline. So your show is Sober, which is interesting name. So you need to have that social media presence. Also, there is a new social media site that people are doing now. It's called Clubhouse. So I really would encourage people to investigate that and look into that. It's important, too, that we stay current on what the new trend is. You really want to stay ahead of the curve. So social media is a very important way. And also, just in doing this, you want to get your podcast out to as many people as possible. So I would encourage you to also you can download it on iTunes as well as download it on Spotify. So you want to, and you can do a lot of things with that. I know with my, this is a radio show, but with this, I do also take each episode and I put it on YouTube. And then from there, and I also promote and try to get as many people to follow and watch as well during the week. So strong social media presence. And also, I would say, too, really think about all the different ways that you can utilize putting your podcast.
Thank you for that knowledge nuggets. And I'm also, too, and I just want to get this in here, I'm also doing Teen for Teens. It's a nonprofit on Thatcher Street in Wilmington, Delaware, 115 Thatcher Street. It's called Teen for Teens. It's a warehouse. And I'm actually going to just give them the introductory, the novice level of starting a podcast. So I really appreciate your wisdom.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for calling, Nelson, and, good luck. I know everything is going to be successful for you, so I appreciate it. So that's good, too, that the other thing I feel like, too, that he said, I know he works as well. So it's just really important that we do have a variety of things that we're doing. He's doing a podcast as well as he started a nonprofit organization that's T for Teen. So I think it's important that we have businesses, for-profit business, as well as nonprofit businesses, and we need to just have a multiple assortment of revenue streams. So I appreciate Nelson calling in. So, again, any questions? Thank you. Any questions for me? 443-380-2803, 443-380-2803.
All right, Doctor, you have another call.
Okay.
They're coming in. I have Jerry, I believe, on the line. I think her name is Jerry. Thank you for calling, Jerry. Good afternoon. Gary. I'm sorry, Gary. That's my fault.
This is, I know, a.k.a. Coach G.
Coach G? Yes, Coach G.
Okay. Gary, where are you calling from?
From Baltimore.
Okay. And you have a nonprofit? And I have to give a disclosure with this. This is Coach G. I had mentioned her in previous radio shows where I worked with her in putting together her nonprofit paperwork. Can you tell everyone, Coach G, just what exactly you're doing, and tell us about your nonprofit.
Yes, I have a youth nonprofit for girls. We are a nonprofit that we empower youth physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally through STEP. So it's a STEP team, and we use STEP as a vehicle to empower and enrich their appreciation for education. So we use 5 focuses, which is physical activity, education, life skills, community service, and training. So by the time they finish our program, they'll have been accepted to college. They'll have workforce training. They'll have life skills and etiquette training. They'll also have 150 community service hours, and have done all of the things that they need to do as far as health, mental health, and hygiene.
That sounds powerful, and I'm being really honest and open and transparent here. I want to talk a little bit, too, about your journey of how you got to this place. I met Coach G on Instagram, actually. She had put out a post, I guess it was about 6 months ago, right before the pandemic started. She had put out a post saying that, she was really passionate about working with STEP, and she wanted to do a nonprofit. Did anybody know how to do nonprofits? So I immediately reached out to her, and we've been working together from there. Can you talk a little bit about just your whole process of how you got to do this and just how far you've come in this process? I'm just really proud of her, too. Can you talk about that a little bit, Coach?
Yeah, so I've been coaching at a high school for 5 years, and I have had the opportunity to travel the world as far as Africa. We've been able to perform at such prestigious places like the Essence Festival, the Makers Conference, New York City College Signing Day with Michelle Obama. We were able to meet so many influential people, and we had the honor of performing for Michelle Obama twice and meeting her in person. So I realized that, when these girls were going through this program, I was not just teaching them, STEP. I was teaching them so many other things. So I thought, okay, how can I make this my own, and how can I continue to impact more kids? Because I only had about 12 girls on a team at a very small school. So I was like, this needs to be in every school. This needs to be like Girl Scouts, This needs to be everywhere, all over the city, next all over the state, next all over the country. So I thought that if it's a nonprofit, people would be more willing to invest in it, and people would see that it is a charitable cause. This is my passion. And what you helped me realize is that I can get paid for my passion. I went into teaching because I thought that's the only way that I could help kids prosper. So when we had the pandemic, we were only teaching for about an hour and a half a day. And I was sitting around talking to the girls just every day, just talking to them, seeing what they needed, seeing what they wanted, the girls from the team, the girls from the school. And I realized, I'm helping these girls even still, So I said, let me see how I can make this work. But I had no idea where to start. And I put a post on Instagram, and she immediately responded and helped me every single step of the way. And even still, like I said, I can call, hey, I got a question about this, have connected me with people, have reassured me, even times when I got discouraged, like over the summer, I got a little discouraged because, how the pandemic was going. But instead of being discouraged, you encouraged me to take this time to get my systems in order, my paperwork in order, my recruitment, make it virtual. So when we do get back in person, it'll be even better. And I'll have, people who are actually interested. So, and that's what I have. Our first performance that we did was for a TV show. So we were able to do choreography for a TV show. I can't say which one because it's confidential, but it's going to be a huge show that premieres in the spring. And we were able to also do a youth voters registration drive as community service. We were able to do a turkey drive, and we're going to sponsor a family for Christmas this year.
Right.
Now, tomorrow, we're actually having a financial awareness class for kids aged 15 to 25, so that they can get a strong start.
Okay, that is great, and I'm just so proud of you and just the progress that Coach G you have made. Can you talk about too? Just what do you feel like is the biggest hurdle for you? What has been the biggest thing that you've had to kind of get through in this process?
Honestly, I think just reassuring myself. With entrepreneurship, it's really difficult because it's no time you clock in, no time you clock out. You have to hold yourself accountable. There is no boss you can go to. And I have a network of people that I wasn't really utilizing. And you continually reassured me to utilize my network and you. And then also just stay encouraged and remember it's about the cause. The cause is to empower the youth and to help them be productive citizens. So I think my biggest thing was me standing in my own way, not realizing like maybe the imposter syndrome, not realizing how big my impact really is and how big it really can be. Standing on my own without having a school on my side.
Right. Well, she's done, just listeners, everyone. First of all, she started this nonprofit in the middle of a pandemic. So she started this, utilized her time. She's a teacher, virtual teacher from home. She did this in the middle of a pandemic. And now she's hosting workshops and she's been able to raise money. She raised a nice sum of money for Giving Tuesday. She did a birthday fundraiser, raised money. And and the bottom line is what she just said. One of the things I always say is that passion is fundable. That's my mantra. Passion is fundable. I could tell that she was, when I met her, just seeing her presence on social media, that she was passionate. She's passionate. Coach G is passionate about STEP. Coach G and STEP go together. So she was passionate about that. And just when you're passionate about something, the funding will come. So I'm really proud of you. So did you have some questions?
I do. I do have some questions. I always have questions. So one of my questions was, what is the difference between an honorarium and a tax-deductible donation? Because I'm going to be charging fee for service, I just wanted to know if there's a difference in that, because I'm doing my research and I'm not really getting clear guidelines on if I'm charging a fee for service like an honorarium. Is it tax deductible because I am a nonprofit?
So there are two things with that. One, an honorarium would be an amount that you're giving to someone if they're speaking, if they're being a guest speaker. So you're going to pay them. That should be one of the budget line items in your budget, where you might have a consultant line where you pay them a fee. So in a sense, that's a payment as a fee. Now, when you talk about just fee for service, when a person pays a fee for service, 100% of that is not tax deductible. But one of the advantages of a nonprofit organization, though, most times is whatever money you pay to the nonprofit organization, most times is 100% tax deductible. But when you start having a fee for service, or if you have a gala, for instance, I'll just take an example of a gala, that you have a gala, you charge $50 for the gala. Now, you have to, the amount that's tax deductible is the amount that you have to deduct how much it costs you to have the event. So, for instance, if you have a fee for service, if you're having your financial literacy event tomorrow, that you might charge people $25. But when you look at the entire budget of the event that you're having, how much did the space cost? How much does it cost to have a speaker? How much did your materials cost? So you take that amount and then you deduct it from the $25. So if it's an amount, the amount that's left over is the amount that will be tax deductible from the person. So you take whatever, if you're giving away free calendars, if you're giving away something, if somebody gives you $50 and you give them a T-shirt, if the T-shirt was valued at $25, then the tax deduction for that person would be $25. So you do take, because if you notice too, at the line, usually on a nonprofit, when they send you a tax deductible note, it says no goods or services were done in exchange for the amount that you gave. So you have to always make sure you deduct out the amount that of the good and the service, and the amount that's left is the tax deductible amount.
Okay.
So you have any other questions? That's a good question.
Yeah. I have a question about how you get your tax exemption card from the government, so you don't have to pay taxes?
Yes, that's another good question. So when you do receive your nonprofit, this is for every state, you have your nonprofit status if it's federal government or state government, but in addition to that, you can get a tax exemption card. So the tax exemption card, you would have to receive that for Maryland. We're in Maryland. Is the state of Maryland. You can look online. There's a form online. It's pretty lengthy. And look, I'll work with you to help you fill it out. But you do have to fill out. It's a special form that you fill out to get your tax exemption. So it's about 2-page form, and they'll ask you for information. It's almost like filling out the nonprofit paperwork that we filled out, but they'll ask you for that. And then you'll get your card, and it's important to have that card. When you make any purchases, you'll show that card, and you won't be charged for taxes. I know for the nonprofit I'm working with, we just did it for Amazon. So we just had a large Amazon order, and because I was able to give them the tax exemption card, that they were not charged taxes. So there is a special form that you have to fill out for that.
Okay. And then I have 2 more questions if you have time.
Sure.
So one of them is, if you get a grant for a specific event and, for example, your budget is $1,500 and they grant you $2,000 and you have money left over, what are you supposed to do with that money?
You should, at all times, whoever your funder is, you should be in constant communication with your funder. And it's important to be open and transparent if it's good or bad, because they're giving you money. So if you have money left over, you should, and don't feel bad about that. Sometimes, too, even if you feel like you can't use the money the way they've allocated, go back to them. Don't try to do anything sneaky and, I don't want to have to give this money back, or, you want to be open and transparent. So if you feel like you're going to have money left over, I will go back to them. But when you go back to them, think about how you might want to spend that $500. If you feel like you still need it, if you need it for something else, if you need it for the program, I would go back to them and say, thank you. We used $1,500, but we have $500 left over, but we can utilize the $500 for this. I would be prepared in what you want to spend it for, and then most likely 95% sure that they will say that's fine, you can keep it. But it's always important, because a lot of times too, they'll ask at the end of the funding period, they will ask just for a report on how you spent the money. So it's just really important to be honest and transparent. But I would be ready, too, with how you want to spend the $500. So I would go back to them.
Wow, that's very good to know. And then my last question was about receipts. I hear so many people talk about receipts, and I think it's a two-part question. What do you need receipts for? And by that, I mean, do you need receipts for when you pay people and when you take money in and when you have invoices and when you do purchases?
Right. The main thing, and I think it's important to have your receipts for primarily for tax purposes. As a nonprofit, though, you do fill out a 990 where your accountant does that for you. You need to do that every year. You don't necessarily fill out your full taxes that you will fill out as an individual, but you should keep all your receipts. I know, too, it's a good idea, too. You can have a credit card and a credit card like more of a debit card. And if you do all your charges on your debit card, then it'll be an easy way for you to capture which all of your expenses are. But you want to make sure your books, it's so important, nonprofits, a whole lot has been happening with nonprofits. So it's important to have all of your receipts, all of your information in one area, and you keep track of all of that so you can have your, everything needs to be done in decency and order. So you can have your books and all of your information in order. So, yeah, I would definitely keep all your receipts. And but I do like the whole thing of if you get a credit card and then you can charge, and that's a way, or even if you do checks, that's an extra receipt for you, too. But, yeah, you should keep all your receipts, and it will be for tax purposes.
And what
I
happens?
appreciate you calling. I have to wrap up. Look, we'll talk. I'll talk to you this week. So I appreciate you calling, Coach G. So everyone to follow her on Step. She's on Instagram. Follow her, support her. That's Coach G. It's the Coach G Academy Inc. So I appreciate you calling, and we'll talk this week. So, okay, let me wrap up. This has been the Granite and Style Radio Show with Dr. Marsha Koger. I like to end all my shows with amen, which is agree with God, move with God, and with God, and never doubt God. This is Dr. Marsha Koger. I'll talk to you all next Saturday. God bless.